Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Testing Mini Bytes. I am your friend Amrut Saktivel. In this video, we're going to get started with our part 2. In last video, we have seen what are the features that we are going to cover, and people have also given their suggestion. I also take them into consideration as well. So without wasting much time, let's see some of the rules before we get started with writing our first code. So the thing is, believe me that no one can write a best code their first step. So if you are writing some bad code, it's okay, we will do series of refactoring and try to make it better. So I may be writing some bad code initially, but we'll go through one by one. We will review our code and then we'll try to improve it by applying some refactoring principles. I'm going to be really practical. I'm not prepared anything, so I may write some bad code. I will fix it later, so don't worry about it. So also we will keep all the design principles in mind. So while applying the series of refactoring, we'll think, okay, what might be the right approach for this. We'll try out different ways and try to fit in the best one that is possible. So I'm going to do the problem solving live, right? I'm not going to prepare anything. So it's going to be like me directly coding, right? So I'm not going to be I have not prepared anything at all, so it's going to be on the flow. So you might be that's what you might see me writing something vague. It might look complex because I might use lambdas and all that, but believe me, those are not complex. It's just unfamiliar. Okay. I have videos on stream API, what is lambda expression, how to use lambda expression and all that. If you haven't checked out my playlist on that, please do watch it, because I'm going to write a lot of lambdas. I'm going to do a lot of functional programming. But yeah, if you are someone who is not really comfortable right now, most probably I will write a basic code and then I will be migrating to the lambda or functional programming. So definitely you can follow the course. There is no problem, but there is no escape for you. If you are an automation engineer, you have to learn the functional programming for Java. Maybe take this as an opportunity to learn it, right? And we're going to keep only one thing in our mind, that is maintainability. So if you think about maintenance, everything else will fall in place. So we're going to code a little and we're going to test a little. So that's how we're going to progress. So without wasting much time, let me head to the IntelliJ. So let me quickly create a new project. And this project, so I'm using Java 11. So I will also suggest you guys to migrate to Java 11. Java 8 is kind of old. So yeah, Java 17, we cannot directly go to the latest version because Selenium and APM are still not compatible, right? So yeah, let's go to the most stable version now. That's Java 8. If you are not using it, it's okay. But yeah, in some places of I might use Java 11 features. In those places, you might have to think about how we can write it in the Java 8, and you have to match it, right? So let's click on next and let's name it as master framework. Okay, something like this. And let's click on finish. I don't want to, I can create it. That's fine. So if you notice, we have a very plain POM.xml. So what I have done is I have already given the list of dependencies that we're going to use. So I have already gathered them all here. So instead of writing one by one, to save some time, I'll copy all of these and then I'll paste them all up, right? So the only difference that you could see is, instead of directly hard coding the version here, I have created as a property, the version property, and I have referred it like this. For example, the no exception, the version is 1.7.1. So the dollar indicates it's a variable. So it will try to fetch no exception dot version from here and then paste it here. So yeah, so that's how it's going to work. The reason being, so if you are having a lot of dependencies, we are going to create a very big framework. It's going to have a lot of dependencies. So most probably, if you want to update the version, it's going to be really difficult. So what I have done, I have created this dependencies like this, so that if you want to update something tomorrow, so you can directly come and update here instead of searching for the dependency in the entire pom.xml. So that's the only good advantage, right? Yeah, so let's do the maven import. So hopefully it would have been there. So again, src folder is where we are going to write all of our code. We're going to keep all the test cases inside the src test. and all other thing apart from the test will be kept in the src main folder. So let's get started with a very simple test, and let's quickly create a class file. Again guys, what are the shortcuts that I use? You might see the presentation assist here, so this might pop you up with the shortcuts that I use. You can learn from that as well. So I'm going to create a Java class. Before that, I want to create a package. Let's say com.tmb. TMB is for testing many bytes. In real time world, you can give your project name or your company name, whatever you feel appropriate. So I'm using package name as com.tnb. It's going to be test, right? So in the test name, let's keep it as a demo test for now. We will refactor it later point of time if you want, right? And yeah, so this is how it looks. Very simple test, and let's try to create a test test and test. Let's say I want to test a live, okay, whatever. Okay, and this is how it is. Now let's try to launch a browser to do something, and then we'll try to migrate this code into better places. Good. So I want to basically use WebDriver Manager for launching the Chrome, right? And I use something like this in driver Chrome driver, right? And apart from that, I want to launch a website. Let's say I want to launch https google.com for now, but yeah, we will use a different website later point of time, right? Good. So after this, I don't want to do anything. Maybe I want to quit the browser. That's what I want to do for now, right? So it's a very, very simple test, and we have written it. And the problem here is this will help me to only run the test in my local. Let's say there are 4 different things that I want to do in case of web test. Okay, web test, I want to have the capability to run it in local. Okay, that's first case. And I also want to run the same test cases in remote. When I mean remote, it can be your browser stack cloud, it can be your selenium grid, can be your selenide grid hosted somewhere in your company's infrastructure. So when I mean remote, it includes a lot of things like selenium grid, selenide, or any other cloud providers. If you guys are using something like browser stack or sauce labs or whatever, so it should have the capability on all of them. And also, more importantly, in all these places you might have to do the browser compatibility testing. For in my case, I'm going to use only Chrome and Firefox. So these are the two things that we want to highlight. Okay, so I need to have a capability to run my web test on local, and remote it can be anywhere. Okay, just the URL alone is going to change, and the decide capabilities section will change. And in all these places, I want to make sure that I can run it on different browsers, for example Chrome and Firefox. Good. So now the first thing what I can do is I can create a property files to manage all these URLs and all the stuff, right? Maybe the Chrome and Firefox, right? There are two cases. Either you can, if you want to your test cases to this particular test to run on Chrome as well as Firefox, then you need to supply these values from the data provider. Okay, but in our case, I'm going to assume that if you want to run your entire suite on Chrome, we will pass it from the uh, configuration properties. So that's what I assume. But yeah, I cannot create a framework that can cater lakhs of requirements. Okay, I'm gonna have certain requirements which I feel what people might use in real time. So if it is something that is different from what I assume, please to make the changes. Okay, please make the changes yourself. Good. Now let's create quickly the property files. Okay, let's go to the SRC test. But inside the SRC test, I want to create a directory. Directory should be the resources, and inside the resources, I want to create a file that is called as config.properties. Okay, and we all know we're gonna use. So the browser is basically Chrome here for now. Yeah, I'm setting the default values. Again, guys, we are not going to write code for reading the property files. We have already covered owner library. If you haven't watched my videos on owner library, please do watch that. Again, I cannot write the code, all this code in the SRC test Java. So I go inside SRC main Java and create my first class inside that. Before creating a class, I want to create a package. So let's assume com.tmb.config is the package, and the class name is basically framework config. Okay, and this is going to be an interface, right? So So this going to extends a config from the owner library, right? Config from the owner library. Once this is done, you can start mapping each of these values to a method, something like this. Let's say I want to get the string browser. Okay. Now I also want to tell, see, we have mapped the browser value here to the browser value here, but we need to tell which file it has to look into, right? So for that, there is something called a sources that you can pick, and in the sources you can tell which file you want to pick. Again, maybe I'll use something that is uh, we have already new window. So this is something that I have already covered, so I'll copy this same thing and I'll put it here. Okay, I don't want to type all of them again. So yeah, let's remove all the unnecessary stuff that we don't think. So what it does is it will go and look for the file that is present in my user directory src test resources folder, and it will look for config.properties. It will go and check whether there is a key called as browser. Okay, what is this? When we understand this, okay, it will go and look into this. But what is this? Okay, this is, you can also pass the browser value as a maven system properties, or a system property. Again, if you are passing it from a Jenkins, it will come as a environment variables. So first it will try to look whether somebody is passing me a browser as a system property. If they are passing, it will take that. If no one is passing any value, it will go and look here. If somebody is passing browser as an environment variable, no one have done that. So what I'm going to do, I will go and check here. Okay, if it is present here, it will take it. Otherwise, you can set some default value as well. If nobody is doing anything, I'm going to have a default value of Chrome. Okay, if you guys are not giving me anything, I'm going to assume a Chrome is a place where I have to run all my tests. Okay, this is as simple as that. Now let's go to the demo test, and we'll try to use this code. Okay, so I'll say config factory dot create. I want to create an instance of framework config dot class. Okay, this is going to be give me config. Okay, let's try to see whether this is working. Again, guys, we want to code a little and we're going to test a little. So yes, out config dot browser. So if you guys notice, this is going to return us a string type, right? Let's try to run it and check what's happening. Maybe I'll comment this piece of code because we are not checking that as of now. Okay, good. So let's try to run it. So now if you notice, this is coming as a Chrome, but we don't want this to come as a browser string value. We want this to be coming as a enum type, so that it is easy for us to do the comparisons and all that, right? We all know why we use enums, right? So instead of a string type, what I want from here is I want this as a browser type. Okay, browser type. And you can use browser type from the Selenium, or you can create your own browser type. So what I'm going to do basically is I go inside this config class and I go here. I'll create a new package. Okay, I'll create a new package called as enum, and inside enum I'm going to create a class. Okay, maybe I'll create it first. Java class enum browser type. Okay, and what are the different types of browser I'm going to use? I'm going to use Chrome, Firefox. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use. Good. Now once this is done, okay, whatever that is coming from that, I want to convert it to a browser type. But how, where are we going to write this logic? Okay, that's when there is something called as converter class. We're going to use that. Okay, so let's go and create a new class here that's going to help us to convert a string to a browser type. Okay, guys, I have already covered all these things in a separate video, so please do watch that if you don't understand here. Okay, string to browser type converter. Okay, and this converter is going to implement, okay, this converter going to implement something called as convert. At the end of the day, I want to return a browser type. So we need to tell which type we want to return. So we want to return a browser type. Okay, we will implement the methods. So this is where we get the browser name. So whatever the name that they are passing, okay. So if somebody is passing system variables for Chrome, environment variables, or whether it is fetching from the config.properties, or it is passing the default value, whatever it is, it will come here, and then it will feed this value will be here. Okay, now it is my responsibility to convert the string to a browser type. How do we convert the string to a browser enum? So it's going to be very easy. A browser type dot value of, and you're going to pass the browser name. Okay, now this looks easy, right? So at the end of the day, we're going to get it as a browser type. Let's go to the code now. This demo test, and let's try to type browser. And if you notice, this is now returning me a browser type. Okay, so that's what we want. We want a enum so that we can do manipulations easily. But the only thing that we have missed is we need to tell, hey, use the converter class. The class of the converter is called as string to browser type converter dot class. Okay, so whenever you are computing the value for browser, try to fetch it from here or here or here. If you don't find it anywhere, use this. Wherever you find some values, use this class to manipulate whatever the string that is coming, and they have written some logic to convert it to a browser type. Use this logic inside this and give me the browser type back. So this is the entire thing. So whatever the properties that I'm going to add in the future, it's going to applicable the same way. Okay, so yeah, so this is what we have done. Everything looks fine. Now we can also do one thing. See, these things are not grouped properly. So what I can do, I can basically create a new package, and then I can name it as converters. Okay, all the converters that I'm going to keep here. So let's copy it and paste it here, do the refactor. Okay, as simple as that. And I also have used an enum here. Maybe I'll use that enum in a separate stuff, because this might be used in even in the other places as well, right? So what I can do, inside that, I can basically create a new class that's basically uh, com dot tmb dot what is that? Let's take it as enums, right? And inside enums, I want to create an enum called as browser type, or I'll just create it. I'll create a package com.tmb.enums, and I'll move the existing this browser type to here. That's it. Everything is done now. So we have now clean way of writing our stuff. Good. Now this is fine. But if you guys notice, we are using a config factory.create, which is not a singleton. So what it does is every time you create a new instance for this, suppose if I write this same line again, this config one is going to be different. Okay, so every time you call this, this is going to be creating a new instance variable. So that's going to be a bad practice, because you're creating a lot of instance variables. Even though Java can handle it, will not do that. So what we do, we'll try to use a singleton pattern. So what they have done is they have some method called as get or create. Okay, we'll use that to, I think it's create or get. Okay, let's try to check what is the method name. Okay, set properties, create config factory dot get or create. So it's actually present in a different config cache. Okay, there is something called as config cache, where we have get or create. So what this means is, it is like a singleton pattern. So it will try to get this instance of this particular class. If it is already present, it will try to get it. If it is not present, it will create and get it. Okay, so that's what we're going to use. Yeah, that's it. So this is how it's going to work, right? So this is basically a singleton pattern implementation, which makes sure that there is only one instance of this particular class all the time. Okay, again guys, we cannot write this code anywhere here, because every test you cannot write it. So let's keep it in a common place where you can access this from that test or your page layers or wherever you need it. So what I'm going to do, Inside this, I basically going to create a new class that's called as config factory. Okay, config factory, and this class going to have all the logic. So let's keep all this as final because I don't want someone to extend this. I'll also create a private constructor because all the methods are static here. So public static. At the end of the day, I want to return framework config instance. uh, Maybe get config would be the name of the method. If somebody is calling get config, all I'm going to do is I'm going to call config cache dot get or create framework config dot class. That's it. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. So wherever you want it, you can directly call config factory dot get config and then whatever the method name you want. So let's go here. Instead of doing all that, so I want to get the browser value now. So I can do out config factory, not the config factory from the owner library, from the config of our uh, config package in our framework. Get config dot browser. That's it. So wherever you want, you can get these values and you can try to run it. Okay, so it is telling no enum constants browser type dot chrome. Okay, so because the problem is we have understood the problem. So the problem is let's go to the enums. So enums are all in capital letters, but the value that we passed is in small letters. So let's go to the converter class. So now if there is a change, I don't have to go and make the changes in the code. I'll do it here. Okay, whatever the value they are passing, I'm going to convert it into a browser uppercase. Okay, and there is one more small problem is let's say they are passing instead of Chrome or Firefox, they are passing Opera, which is not even supported. The maximum thing what I can do is I can tell them here Chrome or Firefox is supported, something like this. But even though we do like this, they may pass it as a system variables. They may not be aware they cannot run the test on Opera. In those cases, what we should do? Okay, you can, it will normally throw illegal argument exception, but by default I don't want to do that. So I write my logic here. So what I'm going to do is basically I can check whether this is browser name is Chrome or Firefox, then you do this. Now I can write some if conditions, but yeah, basically I can use map.off here, and I'm going to store if someone is giving me Chrome, basically I want to return them browser, sorry, browser type dot Chrome. And apart from that, if somebody is giving me Firefox, I'm going to give them browser type dot Firefox, right? And this is going to be in string browser type map. Okay, and instead of all these things, okay, I can basically tell string to browser type dot map. So if somebody is passing me a browser name as Chrome, I want to check in the map key value, right? So dot get or default. So this getter default is going to first whatever the name they are passing, I'm going to put it here and then to uppercase. That's fine. If it is not present, let's say they are passing Opera, which is not present in the map. Okay, what we want to do? We want to return them the browser type .chrome as a default. Okay, if they are passing some invalid values, we don't want to quit the program. It will throw illegal argument exception, but we don't want to do that. We will assume that they want to run it on Opera, but we don't have Opera right now, so we will try to run it on Chrome. Again, it's up to your requirement, your framework requirement. If you want to stop the program, you can. You don't have to do this. You can leave it in the previous step. So in my case, I don't want to stop the program. I want to run it in the default browser. So based on the requirement, I have optimized this. But one thing you need to understand is our code looks much clean. We are not writing a lot of if conditions and all that. So in the next video, we will try to move this code into an appropriate place. We will create interfaces. Many people ask how we can use interfaces in Selenium automation framework. We're going to do all that. Okay, so I'll connect you guys with another great video. Until then, Tata, bye bye from Mohan. Bye guys.